Hi everyone, I am Jason Ganz. I am the manager of developer experience at DBT Labs, and I am here to talk to you about the 5.5 types of packages you'll meet in the DBT package hub. First question is, what is a DBT package? Is a DBT package when you get a nice shipment of data arriving into your warehouse every morning? It is not. Is it the place that you go when your dashboard breaks because you don't have Kevin's product? Also a no. A DBT package is a specialized DBT project which you use to reuse code across multiple projects. Think of a DBT project, a library in Python or any other software. Question, who here has used or has some familiarity with DBT packages? Awesome. All right, so what we're going to do today is look at the many different ways that packages can improve your products. This arises out of something I started when I arrived at DBT Labs. I went through and I was curious, what type of packages do we actually have and what are the use cases that they can solve for? And I was really surprised that there's a much wider scope to packages than commonly people think. There's a couple very highly used packages, and then there are a lot more out there that have really interesting ideas that I think the community is going to be super interested in once they dive in. So if you find any of this interesting and if you want to add these to your project, it's super simple to get started with packages. All you have to do is in your DBT project folder, a packages.yml file, and then you can bring in packages from the package hub, from GitHub, or run them locally. Although we highly suggest you use the package hub, it's the most ergonomic way to use packages. You'll get updates and it helps deal with dependencies. One final caveat before we get into the types of packages, and that is packages are created and maintained by the community, and I am going to go over a set of packages that look interesting. This is not saying that these packages are any better or any worse than other types of packages of the same variety. They're just the ones that stood out for today's presentation. So with that, what are the many types of DBT packages? Exploring the wide world beyond DBT utils. One of the first things people think of if you're familiar with packages is data source transformations. And what these packages do is they take in a common source of data, whether it's your snowplow data or your Salesforce data, and apply some transformations to them to make them easier to work with. Maybe it's standardizing column names, casting fields correctly, taking in the types of data sources that people that are using DBT are often working with, and getting them ready for production workflows. These are useful for anyone that has a standard web business, whether you're bringing in leads from Salesforce, HubSpot, Marketo. Many of these have common DBT packages. They're going to save you a ton of time at the staging layer. And they can really help get, especially if you're starting a new project, get it going and up to speed quicker than it could otherwise. The next, and this is probably the most used type of package because of DBT utils, is macros. So macros are DBT functions that allow you to do common SQL transformations and save code in your product. So things like pivoting out a table in SQL or unioning together two different tables. Things that seem simple, but sometimes could be easier. These are great use cases for DBT utils. Or DBT date, which is a really interesting package that helps give us the kind of date columns that you normally want with a date. So you can apply it to any date time column and it will give you the month that occurred, the quarter that occurred, just setting up some of the rote date analysis that we do very frequently. And these are useful, honestly, for just about everyone using DBT utils, a very widely used package, and there's something in there for just about everyone. All right, the half type of packages. So this represents the experimental edge of DBT packages. So there are only 2 of these, and they're both in their early stages right now, but these perform common machine learning functions straight in your DBT project. So the pre-processing library will actually take your columns and perform things like one-hot encoding that normally you would do it in a Python transformation and do that straight in your data warehouse. And then with the DBT ML library, you can actually run Bigquery machine learning models straight through DBT, which is a very interesting use case. These are still very early. I haven't heard a ton from the community about people using these in production, but it's a very interesting spot to watch and definitely something that might be worth checking out. All right, another type is expanded testing functionality. So if we are people that don't like getting the Slack, we're like, hey, something in our data is broken, and you want to improve your testing straight within your DBT project, then these are the packages for you. So there is DBT Expectations, which takes inspiration from the Great Expectations library, which is a data testing framework for Python, and brings in a huge amount of that functionality so that it can all be applied straight in your DBT project. And then Data Mock Tool is very exciting. It's a new package that actually allows you to do unit testing in your DBT project so that you can make sure before you push code that the new changes you've made haven't upset anything in your data warehouse. And then we have metadata. So metadata packages tell you things about your DBT project itself. So that includes the logging package, which you can use to create a table in your database that tells you when a run was started, when it ended, and how long different model runs were taking. DBT artifacts, very similar package. This one's just on Snowflake, but it actually allows you to export the artifacts that DBT creates, some of the metadata that also feeds into our metadata API, and that uploads that into Snowflake so that you have access to really robust data on how your DBT project is performing. And finally, database optimization. So there are a number of database-specific or data source-specific DBT packages that allow you to work with your data warehouse. For example, one that's really cool is the Snowflake Spend, so that you can actually see how much you're spending in Snowflake through your DBT project. All right, there's a lot of information. The main thing that I want everyone to take away today is that DBT projects contain a very wide scope. They hit every area of your DBT project, from bringing your sources to testing to your metadata. And DBT projects might be right for you. If you're doing something interesting on your own projects, the community would love it if you shared it back with us, shared your learnings, or just you want to try out one of these and let everyone know what you think. So that was a whirlwind tour of the DBT package hub. Happy to talk through any questions, and I will also give a plug for CoOS, where you will learn about this and much, much more.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And for everyone, I find it remarkable that Jason, you started what, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago? And I love that barely just over a month in, he can already walk everyone through our packages. So I think it's awesome.
I'm super interested in using Fivetran's ads package that it combines ad performance data from Google Ads, Facebook Ads, Pinterest, Twitter, like 6 different ad sources. And if anybody's used that, would love to get a message because we're evaluating that.
Yeah, I haven't personally used that, but certainly that's one with a ton of usage, and Fivetran has done a lot of great work building out packages in the ecosystem.
Where's a good place in Slack to ask questions about packages?
That is a great question. So if you join the DBT package release, channel. I will link that in the Boston Local, so anyone that's interested in following. We have a really great scene of people that contribute to this, and so you can follow this channel and see all of the new packages that are coming into the ecosystem.
And a good place to probably start if you want to ask a question.
I think that also the power users channel is a great place. People there are probably pretty heavy package users, so you'll get good answers there as well.
I always find myself doubting whether my question is for beginners or power users, and then I get frozen and panic and then close.
We're working on a guide for that because that is a very common thing that happens, and we're working on creating some materials such that it's much easier to know whether it's for beginners or for power users.
Our community is very kind and welcoming, and if you ask a question in the wrong place, you will kindly be pointed in the right one. Always safe to ask questions. Thank you so much, Jason, for walking us through that.